Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sketchbook Chronicles. Today, I'm going to show you how to draw the anatomy of the human arm. Now, the arm is broken up into a few different muscle groups like the bicep, tricep, and forearm muscles. Draw along with me as we go, and feel free to pause your device if you need more time to properly structure your drawing. With that said, let's get started. I will start off by drawing the front view of the right arm. Now, in this view, you can see the front of the bicep, front deltoid of the shoulder, and the forearm. You can also see the outside of the tricep as it wraps around the arm just under the middle of the deltoid, or the shoulder muscle. Now, there are some muscular divisions and a few tendons near the elbow joint, and a few smaller muscles and tendons near the wrist, and I will be more clear and specific with those as we draw those. Remember, I won't use medical terminology or other fancy names for the muscle groups in the arm because I want you to focus on proportions, proper placement, and how the muscles should look in the arm rather than getting caught up in hard to pronounce names and terminologies. I hope that's okay with everybody. I know that I sure appreciate that when learning. So right now, I'm drawing in the front of the elbow and some of the forearm muscles. And notice how that forearm muscle will just kind of dive in and go right between the bicep and the tricep. And then it meets up right underneath that deltoid. Feel free to erase and restructure if you need to. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I do it all the time, as you can see here. And for viewing convenience, I'm just using Photoshop. But like Bob Ross said, we don't make mistakes, right? Just happy accidents. And I'm just placing in a little bit of the hand, a little bit of the fingers, just to kind of give you an idea of how that arm will look with the hand in the position that it's in. And again, these are all rough drawings, just rough sketches. We're not doing a whole lot as far as rendering is concerned. We'll render a little bit, but not a whole lot. Feel free to render your drawings all you'd like and take all the time you want on them to do whatever it takes to help you become more familiar with proper placement and how the muscles and the anatomy of the human form work. And I'm just kind of building on to what I've already drawn, just adding a little more volume to some of the muscles, just to keep our proportions a little more sound. Put in a little bit of rendering just to kind of deepen or reinforce the indication of where muscles are running and adjacent with one another. Some are on top of others underneath. We'll go over, wrap around. It's a wonderful process learning to draw the human anatomy. I really enjoy it. Now let's take a look at a side view of the right arm. Now in this view, we can see quite a bit of the forearm muscle and a really good view of the outside of the tricep, directly behind the bicep, underneath the deltoid or the shoulder muscle. Kind of blocking that in right now. Blocking the hand and a few of the fingers, just kind of get a different pose with the hand. This will help reinforce or make the view of the tricep muscle a little more prominent and some of those forearm muscles a little more prominent that I explained to you. There's the front of the bicep, and then that front forearm muscle kind of wraps around and back into the underneath the deltoid, next to the bicep, between the bicep and tricep. There's our elbow joint. Kind of clean that up just a little bit for viewing convenience. And now structure a little bit more of the deltoid, that middle deltoid that's viewed on the side view of the arm. And as we block these muscle groups in, remember to be patient with yourself and work at your own pace. Underneath the wrist, dress that up a little bit, bring in a little more volume. And as we draw, remember that the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and you'll come across points in your drawings and in your studies that you may have neglected to notice in earlier studies or earlier drawings. And so that's another reason that I recommend drawing over and over and over, a lot of practice. And it's okay to draw the same pose over and over and over again. Get to the point where you can literally memorize and get to the point where you don't even have to think about what you're drawing. You just, as you're drawing, you're feeling it. It's very difficult to explain unless you've been there. Some of you know what I'm talking about. As you're drawing, you feel what's happening. A little rendering on the bicep there, the outside of the arm, a little bit more on the forearms. Dress that deltoid up just a little bit more rendering. Okay, now let's take a look at the back view of the arm. Now as we draw the back view, we see the tricep under the rear deltoid shoulder muscle and overlap the elbow bone. The back of the forearm muscles also appear a little different than they did in the other poses. So they'll present themselves a lot different from a back view. Now there are many small muscles in each muscle group, but we typically only see the larger muscle groups that I'm drawing here. The tricep is comprised of 3 large muscle groups, and the bicep is comprised of 2 large muscle groups, hence the term tri and bi, which are contained in the names of those 2 muscles. So right there I'm just blocking in the elbow underneath the tricep, and the outside of that forearm comes wrapping around, and then it'll go right in front of the rear view of this rear forearm there that I'm drawing. Block in some of those smaller muscles and tendons right down to the wrist. And it's important to note that the muscles will be more prominent or appear a little bit differently depending on the position of the hand. So if that hand, notice I've given you multiple different positions of the hand. So depending on the position or the flexing or the extension of that hand, that will adjust the view of what you're seeing from a number of different angles. The front view, side view, and back view, just depending on the hand, can change a lot of what you'll see. The muscles are all still there, everything remains constant, but just sometimes the view can be adjusted simply by the different movement of the hand, which is very miraculous. It just is amazing to watch the human form move and adjust. I find it very enjoyable to study and draw the human form. The arm is one of my favorites. Just come in here and clean this up a little bit. A little shadow where the deltoid overlaps the tricep. A little more rendering there to kind of enhance the view or the study. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. I hope that this was helpful to you. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you in the next episode. Keep drawing and enjoy every minute of it. This is a wonderful journey, a wonderful process, and I'm here to help. Thank you.